Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Uh, I know it's been a while. I Obviously this is a look at Oxygen Not Included, and the reason I'm making this video is because uh, no game has gripped me quite gripped me quite as much as this one has in quite a long time. Possibly not since the early days of Clockwork Empires. Um, yeah, I'm currently obsessed with this game. Okay, first of all, it's from Klei Entertainment, another Vancouver-based video game developer. Um, they're best known for Mark of the Ninja, and of course Don't Starve, and Don't Starve Together, and Shank, and of course Invisible Ink. I played most of those games a lot. I'm very impressed with all the stuff they've done, and Oxygen Not Included is included in that list. Again, this one. They're calling it a pre-alpha early access look or development build. And if I was going to throw my money at any developer in early access, no questions asked, it would be Klei Entertainment. Just look at the development of Invisible Ink and Don't Starve. Both of those games benefited from the early access process, and yet they were functional and compelling games in their own right. I was excited about this title upon hearing about it quite some time ago, and it recently became available for purchase, $21.99 Canadian. You do have to go through the Klei forums to find the link, because you cannot, although it is a Steam purchase, you won't be able to look it up on Steam. So the link in the Klei forums will take you to a place where you can purchase it, to the appropriate Steam page where you can purchase it. Not important. Let me talk to you about this game. But before I show you my terrible attempts at building a base, let me show you these options. Okay, so bare bones graphic and audio options and controls, you can remap controls. But look at this, temperature units, Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. That's how geeky the science, the underlying science, the level of detail. Metrics is it's how you will survey or you review like how much oxygen you generate in a day compared to oxygen consumption. Oh my god. Okay, let me just show you this. So here is maybe my third attempt at a base. This is probably the most successful base I have built to date, and I'm on cycle. A cycle is essentially a day, so this is cycle 50. It's currently paused. I know this looks like this crazy, chaotic rat's nest, but this base started off as just this one gate here, and this empty, this empty chest here, which is supposed to contain food. Everything else I gradually built out of, like, I mined rock and I gathered resources and I assigned labor. And I start off with 3 colonists, or duplicants in this case. That's another thing I'll get to. But eventually my population grew up to 18. There were a few mishaps here and there. I've had a couple of fatalities. Yeah, but this is what my colony looks like right now. So what's the premise of this game? Well, I guess it's your responsibility to successfully run a colony that supports the... you grow a colony and keep everyone alive. It's a colony builder. Superficially, it might actually share some of the same themes as Fallout Shelter, in that it is a 2D colony sim. You have to worry about things like pumping water and making food and assigning labor and building all the right modules and keeping all of your colonists happy. But so thematically, it has some similarities. You might also compare it to a game like Clockwork Empires, or maybe Dwarf Fortress, and there's a lot more digging in this one than there is in Clockwork Empires. Games like Prison Architect, because there's a whole bunch of infrastructure management. Well, okay, let's take a look at this duplicant. So I call them duplicants and not colonists because this gate is actually a 3D printer. Every time you're eligible for a new colonist, you pick from a list of guys who have their own Oh, look at some of the artwork they generate. Okay, for instance, we have here your individual duplicants. They all have classes, things they're best at. They have individual attributes, right? They can skill up in a bunch of different areas at each of these things. Just when you mouse over them, you can see what a certain attribute does, positive and negative attributes. Cass has an irritable bowel, which means he, she, I'm not sure actually, has to visit the washroom more often than the default. Assigned as what they're doing and if they have a bed assigned to them, etc., etc. Other details. Look at these details. Each of your duplicates has a specific heat capacity, a thermal conductivity. That's how in-depth this simulation is. Why is thermal conductivity important? Well, let me show you. Of the multitudinous overlays here, one of them is the temperature map. So the specific heat is generally the amount of energy it takes to raise a thing by a certain amount. So it's usually like, what's the specific heat of a block of lead, right? It's the amount of energy that goes in to raise it 1 degree or some arbitrary amount. As you can see, I'm generating a lot of heat on this side of my colony and not so much heat elsewhere. Um, Let me show you. Oh, so much to talk about. So these things are just, I don't know, random storage. I have cots here, ladders. This is the plant that turns slime into algae, which I need to power some of my air filters. Oh, the gas simulation. I'm so impressed by the gas simulation. So, all your colonists, all your duplicants need to breathe oxygen. Obviously, they exhale carbon dioxide. Let me show you. Oh my god. Okay, so the blue areas are the areas where it's breathable. Light blue, it's very breathable, and then there's a descending scale of breathability. As your duplicants are forced to linger in areas with poor air quality, they'll get sick. They might even asphyxiate and die, and either there's low oxygen or there are contaminants in the air, right? So this yellowy gas is, so there's different reasons it might be toxic. It might be because of high CO2 concentration, carbon dioxide, or it might be because like the air is full of sulfur because I hit a sulfur pocket or something. Anyway, as you can see, not doing so well on the gas. Now underneath the subfloor is where I have all my air pumping and filtration technologies. This one scrubs the CO2 out of the air. This one purifies contaminated water. Let me show you the water overlay. This is my rat's nest of a plumbing system where I have like bits where it like passes over pipes and I'm trying to separate out the clean water from the dirty water, and of course I'm running out of water. See this big area here used to be full of water until I used it all up. Then I started pumping water from down here and all that water's gone. Pump water from here and all of that's gone. In desperation, I drilled up to this extremely toxic area here to pump this water, which I had to send through my filtration system. And of course, I emptied all of that out too. So, I mean, if the colony doesn't die, I'm hoping I can drill up into this other like undrinkable water up here, and hopefully that'll save us. Yeah, so much of this is a complicated gas simulation. There's a power grid overlay. I have to generate power, which can be stored in, this is a small battery here. There's a big battery. I've got a couple of big batteries here and there. They all have power capacities measured in watts, I assume. And then each of these power generators, which are actually just big treadmills, right? Hamster treadmills. My duplicates run on them, and they generate. I guess the batteries store energy in. They have a capacity in joules, but the wires, I think the outlets, have capacity in watts, I think is how it's measured. And yeah, anyway, here's that temperature, literally a heat map. This is the light area, so it's very dark in my colony because I'm experiencing power shortages. And none of these light bulbs have power. Again, the plumbing system, I'll show you all this in motion in a second. So I've got a little bit of gas pumping as well. And here I have built in a cooling system. This is a gas pump, and it pumps. This is the hottest area, so I'm pumping hot air out to this cooling unit over here. Where did it go? Oh, I think I may actually have accidentally demolished. Okay. Anyway, there's like a thermolytic converter or something out here which draws in hot air, cools it down, and then pumps it back in via this pipe here, where it comes out of this. This is a gas vent. The trade-off being that, of course, the machine, which used to be here and is no longer here, which cools the air, makes this immediate area very hot, which of course is why I put it away from my population centers. Decor. Of course, your duplicates like things to look nice, and they have different expectations for decor, and to keep them happy, you want to install things like art installations and places to express or to relieve themselves of stress, like this massage table, etc., etc. Frankly, that's been my last priority because I've been scrambling to keep everyone, keep up enough oxygen and plumbing to keep everyone alive. Here is my compost. Oh, so many systems. So let me show you this colony in motion. So the UI is so slick. I can adjust the speed with, just cycle through simulation speed with the tab button here, upper left. 1 time speed, I don't know what this is, faster and fastest. And then space, pauses, and unpauses. So with 2 buttons, I can just pause at any time or speed it up, slow it down. And there's a little bit of lag because, well, okay, this game is still in alpha, needs some optimization. So, as we can see, there's some kind of liquid on the floors of the base, and it is emitting toxic fumes. I believe that may actually be urine and or vomit. This is what they do when they're upset, or the washrooms are full, or the plumbing isn't working. Pee everywhere. However, I am recycling all of that into clean water, which then goes back into food production, and oh, we're also starving, by the way. Did I mention this is my best ever colony? And that liquid gets processed back into food. One issue I'm having, of course, is that no system is perfect, and even though I've tried as many external sources of water as possible, I've just gradually run out of water everywhere. Anyway, this is the water system slowly trickling. Oh, I don't think the showers work anymore. Yeah, oh, but let me show you the gas system. Look at this. Gas moves in real time, and you can see what the predominant gas is in any square just by mousing over it. Carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen, and hydrogen is lighter than oxygen. So gas will naturally tend to separate. So if you're smart, you'll build some gas permeable tiles in the floors and ceilings so that carbon dioxide can sink and oxygen will stay level, and hydrogen will rise. And up here I have a hydrogen generator which converts hydrogen into electric energy. So as people cycle on the generators, of course they're working hard, they're breathing, and they will generate carbon dioxide. As people, just as they sleep, carbon dioxide tends to accumulate. So I put some air scrubbers down here, whose sole purpose is to take the carbon dioxide out of the air. Now, of course, to do this, it needs liquid input from my water reservoirs, which are completely run out. And of course, so it outputs clean air, but it also outputs contaminated water, which is why I put the water purifier here. It takes contaminated water and turns it back into clean water. Yeah, so I am so impressed with this game. I've been playing it obsessively over the last couple of days. So it's been available for purchase for about a week now. I believe shortly after February 15th or so. And yeah, so I've played like 24 hours in the last like 3 or 4 days I've owned this game. I believe this colony is destined for they're destined to die of thirst and hunger simultaneously. But yeah, it's just so compelling to play. Oh, and it's nighttime. Now everyone will tend to go to sleep. Which, unfortunately, because I'm having trouble keeping everything maintained, And since they're starving, and if they don't sleep well, they're tired. They have a limited capacity to do work, which means they're not running on the generators as often, which means not enough power is going into the batteries, which will keep the air scrubbers running while everyone's asleep. When they're all awake, they can run on the generators and generate electricity and fill up the batteries. Ideally, you store up enough battery power to last you through the night at least. That's no longer the case. It was running quite well around day 30. Then things just started to inevitably decline. Yeah, so one thing I will say, the UI is great. Like, I get all sorts of information just by mousing over things. Buttons do what I expect them to do. Information is available at a single click. Even these little alerts here in the top left, they will zoom to the specific incident. They'll tell you specifically what the alert is. All of these, there's different furniture you can build. Look at all this technology, different types of wire bridges, refrigeration, food technologies. This is just the plumbing section here. Medical technology, etc., etc. There's a tech tree, so you build workstations where your duplicants can do research. Can't show you the tech tree right now because I researched the entire tech tree, which it's not really extensive right now. Again, I expect more stuff to be added to it, but I was able to research the entire tech tree, so I dismantled my research stations foolishly. So just take my word for it. There's a tech tree, and as you start off with nothing, and then you unlock plumbing, you unlock temperature control. You unlock all these different technologies which let you refine how you run your base. The UI is so polished, and I think Klei's specific visual aesthetic works really well with this genre of game. You have big cartoony graphics, their house style is their 2D graphics with like thick black outline, and in terms of visual communication, it lets me see exactly what's going on. This is so cluttered. Look at this. Look at this rat's nest of a plumbing system. This is not just artistic clutter. I built it this way because it had to be this way. Like these two super inefficient overpasses, and it's still readable even at a distance. When I zoom out to survey a larger area, like I can still see what's going on. I might want to zoom in because things are crowded, but I can. It's readable, right? This aesthetic works really well. So I'm very impressed with the level of polish this game is showing so far. It's so functional, and there's so much depth. Like, this is a tile, right? It's a floor tile, and yet look, they have listings for it. Floor tiles. I can click on it for more detail. They'll tell me the decor statistics. The tile floors are nicer than rocky cave floors. Each of these things has a specific heat and a thermal conductivity. I believe there's like impedance for the wires. Pardon me. Yeah, so I think right now my early access opinions. If you're into this sort of game, and I think you know if you are, the colony survival builder kind of simulation-y kind of game. Hopefully this is giving you some idea if this sort of game would appeal to you. It's right up my alley. I like the sci-fi setting. It's so polished. The UI is usable and informative, and I had no trouble at all finding out what leads to what or how to plan my own strategy. And my failures are my own. Well, I say they're my own fault. Clearly, problems with my colony are easy to deduce, which gives me the opportunity to maybe work around my own solutions. Oh, there's a pool of contaminated water filling up the air filtration unit. By the way, your colony doesn't start with floors or anything. They're all rocky caverns like this one down here. And I built all of these walls and floors. Oh, duplicants have died. Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I've run completely out of food, and that's because I've run completely out of water, which is used to make food. Oh, it's not just water, it's like urine or something filling up my... That's okay. more liquid to pump back into the food manufacturing stations. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm very impressed with this game. It's good, and if you like this sort of thing, if you're the sort of person who would buy this sort of thing in early access and watch it develop over time, I would say absolutely go for it. I wouldn't blame you if you want to wait for them to put in more features. I would say sort of biological cycles are not complete enough. It is incredibly difficult to succeed in the long term in this game. Basically, there are some mechanisms for recycling wastewater and waste solids, but they don't function well enough to maintain a colony over time. And bear in mind, each of these simulations is a closed system. Well, I say closed system. We don't have free access to oxygen and water, right? Well, you only have what you are able to obtain yourself. So it's a matter of how can you optimize the materials available in this little bubble of life to sustain life. And of course the challenge increases as you get more duplicants, but of course you have to keep them alive and feed them, and which increases the demands on your management skills. Yeah, if you are interested in watching me play this, I mean, I might just make a series out of this. I mean, I'm really enjoying this. So that's what I have to say about Oxygen Not Included. It's again $21.99 Canadian, so I don't know what the US price might be. It's available. It's a Steam store. It's from Klei. Oh, I have a new duplicant. This is what happens. So every 10 minutes or so, you get a new potential duplicant. And this is what they look like. So I can see they have attributes. These are their built-in skills. Each of these, they have the ability to increase a skill by doing it. So if they do a lot of running around, they're in athletics, which governs the speed at which they move, will gradually increase over time. This guy's athletics 0, who's base movement speed. This guy's athletics 6, who's plus 60% movement speed. They have randomly assigned traits and both positive and negative. Diver's lungs, he consumes less oxygen, but he eats lots. He's very hungry all the time. This guy has very low decor expectations, so he doesn't care if the base is ugly and undecorated, but he cannot do art. But he will also not participate in combat. And so on and so on. So, traits, and then additional random details like how they respond to stress. If your colony has very poor water and sanitation services and not enough to eat, they will become stressed, and how they respond to stress varies randomly, right? So this guy will vomit, this guy will break your buildings, this guy will also vomit. So maybe, I guess I'd maybe pick this guy. Also, you can rename them if you want. I choose this one. Great. New duplicate. We may have to recycle him into food because we are completely out of food. Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how this game goes. It's fun to play now. I look forward to it becoming better and more extensive in future. I trust Klei has a really good reputation as far as these things are concerned with their past games and the development, and they're very responsive on their forums and things. Yeah, you might consider picking up this game if this is the sort of thing that interests you. Again, available on Steam. It must run on Steam, but it's not purchasable directly through Steam. You have to go through the Klei forums. They have an early access forum on which they will provide you a link to the appropriate Steam purchase page where you can purchase this game if it interests you. That's pretty much all I have to say about Oxygen Not Included. Maybe I'll make some videos if people indicate that they would enjoy watching me fail. Yeah, thanks very much for watching this one. My name is Alfred. The game is Oxygen Not Included, Klei Entertainment. Well, I will see you around.